Toasters. Good morning. It is 9:30 a.m., and this is the Weekly Pulse with Ambro. I am your host, Ambrosha Angel, and as you can tell, I am really excited to be here. This has been a month of a lot of awareness and reflection. And earlier this month, actually it was last week we had a talk about breast cancer. It was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So if you were not able to catch that show, please head on over to Blog Talk Radio and check out Air Nation Radio and the Weekly Pulse with Ambro last week. It was a fantastic show. We had a great turnout, and everybody was really nice and kind of listening to the show, so thank you so much for that. But this is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Imagine that. You know, that's something that I'm really passionate about for a couple of different reasons. For anyone that does not know, I'm actually also a 911 operator. Thank you. I'm pretty awesome on the time. But, so I'm also a 911 operator, so this actually touches home for me. I'm pretty passionate about it because it's something that we deal with often, and but I'm also passionate about it because as a woman, I feel like there are a lot of do's and don'ts that maybe need to be addressed. And again, for just someone that does not know, anything that I say, any of my opinions are those of my own. I do not speak for anyone. So if you, for whatever reason, value my opinion, I appreciate you listening. And if you don't, I thank you for listening anyway. But, again, this is just my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'd like to start with some statistics, and we'll have a bit of a discussion regarding some of my concerns about any statistics that we might read, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some other issues regarding whether it's domestic violence, physical abuse, it's mental abuse, or for anyone that doesn't know or anyone that doesn't have a clue how they would get in contact with someone if they are having domestic violence issues. I'm going to leave some numbers after the show for you guys to be able to kind of, refer to. So let's start with the official definition of domestic violence. The official definition of domestic violence is an emotional abuse behaviors used by one person in a relationship to control the other person. Partners may be married or not married, heterosexual, gay or lesbian, living together, separated, or dating. Okay, so I wanted to give the official definition of domestic violence because I want anyone under the sound of my voice to understand exactly what you're dealing with. This is not just any one particular person. This can be anyone. It can be a man that is being violent with his wife or his girlfriend. It can be a woman that is being violent with her husband or boyfriend, and vice versa. So we're also going to talk about that regarding husband abuse or male domestic violence. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. One of the things that I really wanted to get off my chest here is the statistics that I'm going to be reading. And if you need a reference for anything that I'm saying, the statistics are coming from the website I have here up on my laptop. It says domesticviolence.org. So domesticviolencestatistics.org. So you'll be able to look these up if you want. If you want to just kind of look them up after you've heard what I had to say about them, or if you want to just do it for whatever reason, GP, go right ahead. So the first statistic is every 9 seconds in the U.S. a woman is assaulted or beaten. 9 seconds is not very long. Within the time that it takes me to say what I'm saying, the woman has been beaten. That's pretty sad. The second is around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. Most often, the abuser is a member of her own family. Now, regarding that, a lot of people seem to think that leaving an adult child, leaving an older child with a family member, if you're just leaving them for them to watch the child, if you're just, if you have a brother, a cousin, you never think, I think in the back of your mind, you might have a little something there, but for the most part, people never assume that their parents or family member or anything is going to do anything to harm their child or teenager, adolescent. That stuff never really crosses your mind. But again, the statistics don't really lie. So keep that in mind. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. Let me say that one more time. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. Ouch. Ouch. Studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some form of domestic violence annually. And now when they talk about some form of domestic violence, keep in mind that domestic violence is not just physical. It is emotional. And sometimes emotional domestic violence can be worse than physical domestic violence. But we're going to talk about that as well, so keep that in mind. Nearly 1 in 5 teenage girls who have been in a relationship said a boyfriend threatened violence or self-harm if presented with a breakup. That is scary. And truly, I personally believe that is a form of emotional domestic violence, but it also talks to or speaks to me saying, hey, what are we doing with our kids? As adults, we have a job to do. Once you create that little life and you are raising that child, what are you teaching them? Are you popping them in front of a television and saying, hey, this is how I want you to grow up. I don't want you to bother me. I'm going to be doing whatever I'm going to be doing, and I want you out of my face? Or are you actually raising that child and instilling different, just important things in them? Are you giving them values? Are you making sure that they understand the level of importance that they are to you? So keep that also in mind as we move forward with threatening suicide, because that's going to have to be a show at some point as well. Every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. Now, I also want to touch on that. That is huge for me, because a lot of times we allow certain parts of the media, we allow things to be taken lightly. And sometimes people take things lightly to keep from crying. You make a joke about something because it really does hurt you, but you don't want people to see that it does. A lot of comedians joke about, my husband is getting on my nerves if he's lucky if I don't kill him today. That's really not funny. But people laugh. It's a lighthearted, I never would really do that, but how do you know? Who knows what somebody would really do? So a lot of times things are taken a little lighthearted, but yes, that particular statistic is pretty huge. Every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. 92% of women surveyed listed reducing domestic violence and sexual assault as their top concern. 92%. That is humongous. I was going to say ginormous, but I didn't want to, I'm trying to be as professional as I can here. So that is ginormous. It's huge. 92% of women listing something like that said that there is something wrong here. And we need to figure out how we can get it right. So let's think about that. Domestic violence victims lose nearly 8 million days of paid work per year in the U.S. alone, the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs. Now, that's important, but we're going to move on. there's like 4 more tips here. But those are the very important ones that I wanted you guys to hear, because it speaks so much about how we're doing things in life, how we're raising our children, how we are accepting or allowing domestic violence become a socially acceptable behavior, and we cannot allow that. So with those statistics given, let me also say here that it says some examples of abuse include name-calling or put-downs. Now, that goes directly to emotional abuse. You cannot, in my opinion, abuse anyone more than putting them down and calling them names, making them question their self-worth. That is so huge, because all you truly have, if they already have a feeling of selflessness or worthlessness within themselves, having a person, and I'm trying to refrain from saying man, because even though women are the largest number of people that are domestically abused, those numbers to me are skewed. Because working in a 911 field or being a public servant, I know and understand that women are not the only ones that are abused. We have some wonderful men out there that they will never hit a woman. It's crazy. It's insane. So these women sometimes get away with so much because this man doesn't want to appear to be a punk. He doesn't want to appear to be a wimp. So he doesn't call 911 when his wife abuses him emotionally or physically. He just takes it. And it's difficult. But, we have abusive women as well, so let's keep that in mind. Keeping a partner from contacting family members or friends. So basically that is also emotional, and it keeps that person isolated. So if at any point you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend that is having you refrain from contacting your family, your mom, your dad, a best friend, keep that in mind that is a psychological abuse, and that's his way or her way of isolating you to depend on them and only them. Withholding money. I don't know about you, but if I work, I'll be dang on if anybody's going to tell me that I can't touch my money. So that's going to be a problem that might cause a physical situation. But, nobody should hit anybody. Keep that in mind. But withholding money, that is another form of abuse because it makes you rely on that person. You have to ask them for what you want. It's more of like a superiority complex. Big issue, another form, and something to look out for. So keep all these in mind as you hear them and look out for these as much as you can with your partner. Stopping a partner from getting or keeping a job. Again, it keeps them dependent. If you're the only party that's working, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have to contact you for anything that you need, for anything that they need, a ride, some money, anything that they need. If they're not working, they're solely dependent on you, and that's going to be a big issue. Actual or threatened physical harm. That speaks for itself. Physical domestic violence, anything from a slap across the cheek to a slap too hard on the derriere, anything can be considered physical domestic violence if they put their hands on you and it is not wanted. Sexual assault. Sexual assault is also a form of domestic violence no matter what you're doing. If you are a married couple and you tell your husband, do not put your hands on me, and he puts his hands on you, whether you consent to it or, even if you don't consent to it, sexual encounter with your husband, that is rape. Your husband can rape you. If you do not want it, he is not entitled because you wear his ring. That doesn't mean that you are supposed to succumb to his will because that is what he wants. No. If you say no, no means no, whether you are married, single, it doesn't matter. No means no. Sexual assault, rape, even if you're married. The last two are stalking and intimidation, and honestly, those speak for themselves. Someone's following you. Someone is hitting you up on Facebook constantly because now we have social media, right? People are following you on Twitter, or Twitter or Facebook, and that's fine. But when you're getting constant messages, when you're getting, what's your address? Where do you live? Can I call you? Can you please find me? Every day, things like that, those are kind of, that's kind of like stalking there, Intimidation, obviously, is when someone is telling you, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this, or, whatever. So keep all those things in mind when you are getting to know someone. They're huge, a huge part of what you may be looking at in the future, okay? So keep those things in mind. One of the biggest parts about the show today for me is how we're going to incorporate the fact that social media plays a huge part in how domestic violence is perceived as a quote-unquote good thing. If you could see me, I'm doing the quotes. Anytime you hear me say quote-unquote, I've got my fingers going. So keep that in mind. It's the quotation marks as I speak. So social media and the media, television, radio, things like that, they play, in my personal opinion, a huge part in why domestic violence has become somewhat socially acceptable. Let's think about this for a moment. What have you seen on television that makes you believe that domestic violence can somewhat be socially acceptable? Have you ever seen on a television show a young girl and a guy, they're seeing each other or they like each other, and you see a girl slap a guy across the face? They smile and, he likes her. That's why she did that. Same thing with a guy. Young girl, they're in kindergarten. He comes and he pushes her down on the ground and he runs away, and somebody comes and helps her up and she says, why did he do that? He says, and the adult says, oh, well, he's just like that because he likes you. No, not acceptable. But because of those particular beliefs, a lot of times young women, they grow up and they think, oh my gosh, he must like me. If he slaps me, it's because he loves me. If he pushes me or hits me, it's because I did something to provoke that action. Because he loves me. That is not true. No one deserves to be hit. No adult person has the right to lay their hand upon another adult person for any reason unless you're into that. And for those of you that know what I'm talking about, just know that I'm not into that. But at any rate, it is not acceptable in the least. So, keeping that in mind, we're going to talk about a couple of things regarding other statistics in domestic abuse. Anyone can be a victim. In some areas, people actually believe that domestic violence does not happen to certain people. I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. Domestic violence does not happen to certain people. What does that mean? In this community, domestic violence doesn't happen. It only happens in the African American community. It only happens in the Hispanic community. It never happens in the Caucasian community. It never happens in this place. It never happens in that place. This couldn't be further from the truth. Like our show last week on breast cancer, domestic violence is not discriminative. Anyone can be an abuser. Anyone. Like we said before, male, female, it does not matter. Just because you are of a certain ethnicity does not mean that you cannot be abused, or that whatever is happening in your particular situation is not abuse. You know, I used to think that having the once in a while argument, having a fight, you know, that was okay. Why? Because I'm African American. We're some of us are loud. You know, we're loud. We're passionate. You know, I can't speak for any other race, so all I can do is speak for mine. But I know that as you know, as an African American female, I know that I'm strong. I know that I'm loud. I know that I have a tendency to say, "Hey, hear me. This is what I'm trying to say." So when you're having a disagreement with your spouse or, you know, with your significant other, you're thinking, I want this person to hear me. But you hear with your ears, not with your hands. So the stereotypical belief that slapping someone across the face is going to get their attention could not be more wrong. If you want someone to hear what you have to say, you sit there and you talk. You don't hit. Because I am also of another belief that may be a little different than what you all might think. I personally believe that if at any point any person is hit, that other person has a right to protect themselves, man or woman. So if at any point a woman puts herself in what I feel is a man's position, hear me out. If she puts herself in a man's position by striking a man, I do not think it is right that she thinks that she can stand there and he is just supposed to take it. That's my opinion. And I know a lot of people are going to think that's wrong, but I'm sorry. If you ever raise your hand to any person, it's wrong in any regard. But I don't understand the belief that at any point, anyone can raise their hand to a person. That person is just supposed to sit there and take it. They're not supposed to do anything. I'm a believer that you are to protect yourself at all times. It's like a boxing match. Protect yourself at all times. If at any point you are hit, you have the right to hit back. Period. No discriminating. None. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to avoid any type of hitting. That is just my personal opinion regarding that matter. So what we've covered, we've got about 7 minutes before the show ends, and I just want to say that keep in mind that you are not alone. If you are a victim of domestic violence, if you have an abuser at home, if you have an abuser that's not in your home, if it's someone that is a girlfriend or a boyfriend, someone that you don't see all the time, someone that you can, at this particular juncture, get away from, keep in mind that you are not alone, it is not your fault, and help is always available. Even if you have children in the home and you are married, you are not alone. It is not your fault, because the abuser will try to make you believe that you provoked whatever action is done against you. The abuser is a master manipulator, man or woman. Keep that in mind. The abuser already knows what they have. Prove them wrong in leaving that situation, doing whatever is safe. Keep in mind, safety is the hugest part of this. But you're safer away than you are being there. It cannot be easy. I'm not trying at all to make it seem like whatever an abused person is going through is easy. I know it's not easy to walk away. Trust me. I know it's not. but you're not alone. You are not by yourself. It's not your fault, and help is always available. Now, what I want to do is I'd like to go ahead and give out a couple of things. As I said, I'm a 911 operator, so keep in mind that we have ways in which that we make sure that a person is okay. So domesticviolence.org is a website that can be used for anyone that wants to look up domestic violence and wants to look up different ways to know more of what's going on as far as domestic violence, to kind of classify yourself or see where you are if you feel like you are an abused person. And so to org, that's one reference. Another thing that I'd like to say is, as a 911 dispatcher, again, that's something that we take very seriously. So if at any point, we take everything seriously, to be honest with you, but if at any point you feel like you are in danger, do not hesitate to pick up the phone and dial 911. That is why we are there. We're there to help protect you as much as we can, but we need your help. So when you do pick up that phone, immediately give us your location, or a location of where an incident is happening, this particular incident. We cannot do anything without a correct location, so make sure that you give that immediately. But 911 is your best reference. Call 911 no matter what it is. Again, that is why we are there. Also, I have a hotline number for anyone that believes that they have been a victim of domestic violence, they know a victim of domestic violence, or they just want to talk about domestic violence and see if maybe that's where their relationship is headed. That number, when you're ready, is 800-799-7233. Again, that number is 1-800-799-7233. That is a domestic violence hotline, and there is no reason at all that you will not be heard at that number. So keep that in mind. If at any point you need to talk about whatever is going on in your situation. Emotionally abused people, again, are very, very hard to somewhat get through to because the abuser has already put so much on you, whether it's your self-esteem, they have beaten your self-esteem down. Know that you are beautiful. Be as confident as you can and understand that you can get away from that person. There is help everywhere. Truly. That number, 911, domesticviolence.org, and again, Ambrosha Angel at yahoo.com. I have no problem at all with giving my opinion about what's going on. Obviously, I'm a very opinionated person, but if anybody needs to talk about anything, I have no problem with that. So, Ambrosha Angel at yahoo.com. I'm also on Facebook, Ambrosha Angel. There is going to be a website being set up for the weekly polls. So you'll be able to send messages there, friend me there, the whole 9 yards. So look for that within the next couple of days if you want to friend Ambrosha Angel and just kind of keep up with the shows and what's going on in the world of Ambro. So thank you so much. We've got 1 minute left before the show ends, and I want to thank my DJ, Delta Dawn. She has been on the ones and twos the entire show. Thank you so much, DJ Delta Dawn. Next week, I will have a riveting topic for us to discuss. There's been a lot of, I've been kind of Debbie Downer, I think, since I started. So what I think I want to do next week is probably go ahead and pay tribute to some of our fallen soldiers, kind of get as much information as I can and allow you guys to hear the names of some of the people that have fought so desperately for this country and made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives for you and me. So thank you guys so much. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week there. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Weekly Pulse with Ambro, with host Ambro on the Air Nation Radio Network. Thank you for joining us.